So I prepared these two slides basically for today. This slide will basically consist of why BRIM came into picture and why, as in how did SAP market or position this particular product. So let's say from a business context, right? If you see every business is becoming moving towards a subscription-based product now, rather than they giving you the product, they're giving you a service. So that is where
Mm-hmm.
BRIM comes into play, correct? So let's say you have Netflix and Hotstar, Disney Plus, Boot, etc. All these streaming apps where you have media entertainment as a service, where you're not paying for the app, you're paying for a particular subscription for a particular month, or let's say for a year, right? Similarly,
Yeah.
you have different consumer products as a service. So you get these days, for example, in Bangalore or even in India, what we're seeing is that we're seeing this particular thing, all these water purifiers being sold on a subscription basis, and you get monthly charges based on the water you consume. So that's a usage. Based on the usage, you get billed. So that's one
Mm-hmm.
particular case for consumer products as a service. Similarly, transportation as a service, you have Uber, Rapido, Ola, all these apps. Software as a service, we're all quite familiar, as in you have
Mm-hmm.
all these apps like Cisco, all these companies, Cisco, etc., Adobe,
Yes.
all these companies providing you, Verizon, VMware, all these companies are providing you software as a service. Hardware as a service is, let's say you can have Bosch giving you some hardware on a subscription basis or as a service. It's being sold
Mm.
as a service. And similarly, so you have so there's one project which is currently going on Allstate, which they're giving you roadside insurance as a service. So if you see
Mm-hmm.
all these products, all these you're seeing a shift in businesses where they are becoming one. They're going from products to services and outcomes. So it's the kind of what should I say? The focus of the businesses is going towards how the users consume the service, not consume the product, basically.
Yes, that's
Right.
right.
Of course,
Yeah.
your product is definitely your has product has to be A1, because if your product is not good, your service will not be good. Service, or the kind of what should I say, the service the user gets while he uses your product, that is what the user will probably hold on when you see that there is a repeat customer or something. So that is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see, so this one is where I put it down, where the business models are changing. Let's say products are moving to services and outcomes. You have mobility as a service, 3D printing, managed print services, etc. And there you see that everything is getting connected. So your phone gets connected to Alexa, Alexa gets connected to MacBook, etc. All these things. So autonomous vehicles, smartphones, city infrastructure, fleet management, where you see you have, so let's say one particular DHL is using an entire fleet of like trucks, right? So how does that whole come into play when you have to manage so many trucks on a daily basis, right? So that's one thing where connected fleet is coming into play. Then ecosystems of partners are collaborating to deliver more value. So you see service providers coming into play and collaborating with other service providers, suppliers, etc., to give the user more value. And the
Mm-hmm.
experience economy is changing customer expectations, right? So you see all these AI coming into play for devices, then mobile apps, etc. It's the experience which is basically changing how your business model is growing from a product to a service.
Yes, absolutely. And products are more like you get the customer inside the tent, but to keep him in the
Right.
tent in the house, you need the service to do that, actually, right? And also, yes, also another point with service is they give a lot more gross profit margin compared to a product, generally speaking. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. So
So they're
even
more
with this, you
profitable.
see, there's
Yeah.
this correct. So SAP came up with this thing called Rise with SAP,
Hmm.
where let's say SAP is not actually let's say installing that the SAP system inside the customer's this thing, right? So it's not on premise, it's like cloud, and so
Yes.
that the expenses it's not the customer is spending on capital. So
Hmm.
whatever, so let's say in your balance sheet, in the customer's balance sheet, your project or your project budgets, it goes in the form of OPEX, basically operational expenditure, and not capital expenditure. So that is
Yeah.
where even SAP is growing, right? So
Yes.
they're moving from the, let's say, selling licenses through to like selling cloud-based services, right? That is what SAP
Yes.
is also changing currently.
Yes, in fact, they've been asking me to move to Rice for some time. So, because I'm the manager, I have a relationship with, a business relationship with the rep, and then they've been like,
Okay,
I think you want to move from on-prem. We have an on-prem, so they want us to
right,
move to the Rice actually and cloud solution. Yeah. So,
correct. Yeah, yeah. So the focus of SAP is currently that, like, they're They're
Yes.
trying to move everything to a cloud-based version rather than that's the
Hmm.
vision they have as in 2025, 2026. I think that's one vision. Let's see what
Yes.
happens. Okay. Yeah, so this is one example where OTC, basically order to cash, is transforming with new business models. So this is the traditional model where you have like a price per item and you have standalone transactions, right? You don't get everything like in a collaborated version of anything, right? And so this is the
Hmm.
new business model which we are focusing on. So if you see, you have subscription where you, let's say you're subscribing to something and you're billed on a quarterly basis or on a basically on a particular cycle, like you have subscription on a recurring basis which can go for monthly, annual, based on whatever the customer wants, right? So that's one thing.
Hmm.
Revenue sharing is another thing. Usage, basically usage comes more into picture from a utilities perspective, let's say electricity departments, etc. Even for telecom, I'll say. So these days if you see, so initially what you saw was that you had a subscription thing, but you also, on top of the subscription, after a particular point, if your, let's say, your allowance or the credit which got
Hmm.
exhausted, you were billed on a usage basis. Let's say after 2 GB or 3 GB, what happened was that was
Yeah.
initial in the initial stages where, like, after 3 GB you used to get billed, let's say, 0.01 rupee for, or point 1 rupee for, let's say, 100 KB or something, right? So on top
Yeah.
of subscription on a recurring, you had a usage prices, you had a usage component as well. So that's where the usage came in. Discounts as well. So well, let's say you get certain discounts on the basis of the product on the basis of the quantity you consume, right? So let's say from a understanding from a telecom perspective, let's say you use 3 GB, and if you
Hmm.
exhaust 3 GB, you use another 1 GB, you get a discount of something, right? Let's say
Hmm.
something like that.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. So it's, if you see, but currently what's happening, if you see, Shrikant, is more than usage, it's all becoming on a subscription. Like
Hmm.
you don't see more of like usage based. So if you see even Netflix gives you a simple recurring price of, let's say, in INR it is 700, and in
Hmm.
700 you can consume as many things as possible for as long as possible in a month, right? It's not that if you're
Exactly.
giving 700 you can only watch 3 series or 4 series, right? That's not
Right.
something which is happening. So this usage part is coming into play mostly on the utility side. Let's say if you have a water metering or event metering, electricity metering, all these particular solutions will always have this usage component. It's not that and everything is only limited to subscription. So you can also have a subscription along with usage. But from what I see is that from usage, most of the things are moving to a simple subscription, because users, from a consumer, I don't want to pay for extra usage. You just give me one price, I will consume as much as I want. That's what's happening.
Yes. They want some predictability month to month or period to period,
Correct.
right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, basically, this is the challenge, as in you have lack of agility to embrace change. You cannot share revenue with your partners, or there's a complete, if you have a complete ecosystem of your partners, you can't do that. And there's no transaction level traceability. So that leads to revenue leakage. And
Mm.
there's another thing, the inability to scale. So scalability is something which is more really important. If you see so many startups and all, they always talk about scalability. So that's something which, from small trials, and even so let's say even this rise with SAP thing which I'm talking about, right?
Hmm.
It started off with a few customers, but then SAP just wants to do it as many clients as possible, right? So that's one thing where scalability comes into play. So now we'll move to BRIM. Then I'll just show you. So this is the SAP portfolio, right? If you see, there is all these operations. So you have inside financial planning and analysis, you have management reporting, profitability, etc. So you have
Hmm.
these are the different modules, basically, I'll say: treasury
Hmm.
management, enterprise, and risk. Now inside finance operations, we have a sub module called order to cash. So I'm sure you must be familiar with this because you have quite a rich experience in
Hmm.
SAP, right? So record to report, procure to pay, tax,
Hmm.
etc. Travel and expense. Order to cash is where the BRIM is positioned, basically. That is where the BRIM
Yeah.
component comes into play inside order to cash. So why did I'll just give you a brief on how BRIM, what exactly BRIM is. So if you see, the rapid design of service-based business models and the support of prepaid and postpaid business models is what brought BRIM into play. And the users, and also even, I'll say, enterprises, they want simple, flexible pricing and also product bundling. where you can bundle different products into one particular quote or one particular order, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. So you can design, and this design can be done in quite a quick time. So you don't need to like have a lot of configuration or anything in place for that.
On the
Holistic
fly.
management of yeah, on the fly, yeah. Holistic
Okay.
management of reckoning and usage based. So you have automated payment handling. You can do it from any channel.
Mm-hmm.
Support for partner revenue, credit risk, etc. So all this is quite theoretical, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Customer focused settlement and service at scale. So you have automated payment handling from any channel, master agreement support, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So you see, this is the cloud version. So if you see orders, contracts, and entitlement, you start with your product life cycle basically. Then you do
Yeah.
the usage collection, you do the pricing, charging, and subscriptions. Then you bill and settle.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the payments, credit, and then customer care. So this is the SAP S/4HANA scope basically for billing and revenue innovation management. So inside managed subscriptions, this is where you have subscription order management which comes into play. You have product and product bundles. You have the subscription orders, order distribution, fulfillment. This is where you were talking about subscription order change, where you can change your orders. You have different change order processes, and entitlement management. So this is one thing which is coming into play right now. And
Mm-hmm.
entitlement management is and subscription billing. All these two modules are part of SAP's public cloud version for BRIM. So if you see
Mm-hmm.
entitlement management and subscription billing, you won't see it in the on-prem version. In on-prem version, you'll have four modules, which I'll come to later. But entitlement management, you can think of something as that. Let's say you're providing a printing service. You are giving certain entitlements to the customer, right? So let's say you're giving a hardware, which is a printer, a support. Let's say you're giving complete support for that particular printer for a 1 year or 2 years, whatever is that period. You're giving like the 3D printing app. Let's say it's an additional app which you're giving to the user or the customer. On top of that, you are giving them let's say 24/7 support. Or I mentioned that. Let's say you're giving something like paper also, right? Which is again for your printing version, you're giving paper. So these are different entitlements which as a company you're offering to the consumer. So you can manage all these entitlements inside one module, entitlement management, and that can be integrated with S4, right? So you don't
Mm-hmm.
need to have like multiple modules for like let's say one module or let's say for hardware, service, everything. And also what you do inside entitlement management is like your entire life cycle, 360-degree life cycle. You can actually view, and you can see it inside this entitlement management solution. So this is something which is coming up lately,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a part of the public cloud version for SAP as part of BRIM.
Okay.
Inside you collect usage, you have basically you how you acquire the transaction data, right? So because your usage data does not come from S4, it can come from different network, I'd say app, right? Let's say if you have your telecom company, you have these different network. That usage data has to come into S4, right? Or let's say in case of it has to either come in S4 or CC to price it. You will get it to convergent charging system. So how do we
Mm-hmm.
acquire that particular consumption data and send it to
Yeah.
S4 in a consumable format so that SAP can read that thing and rate it and then send the amount to invoice, right? So that is something,
Yes.
this collect usage part, that's what this collect usage part is there for. And
Uh-huh.
also, how do you do it in batch or real time? So you can also do it as soon as you get a consumption, you rate it, or what happens is you acquire and you keep everything like for a month and you bill it
Mm-hmm.
at the end of a month, or you rate it at the end of a month, right? So that is another thing which you need to take care of. Enrichment, data enrichment and validation. So this is what I was talking about. Like, so the
Yeah.
network events, they might not send data in a readable format, right? So their format might be different from what is an understandable format by SAP, right? So that is something
Mm-hmm.
which we data enrichment and validation can be done by this particular tool called conversion mediation. Error
Yes.
capture and reprocessing. Let's say what happens is one particular network event. I'll just name it as network event right now, but in reality, it's called consumption data record in the BRIM world. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if that gets sent and that does not get processed, let's say, does so we need to reprocess it, right? We need to send it back to S4. So this particular reprocessing thing is one of the key features of convergent mediation, what you can do, and also audit.
Mm-hmm.
So inside price and charge, this is something which convergent charging system takes into will take care of. So you have one-time recurring and usage charges. You have online and offline charging. You have partner share, revenue share calculation, service pricing modeling, bill and settle is again management of billable items. So you get billable items, which is nothing but the bits or the amounts to be invoiced from multiple systems, which you can do. You can have partner payments, settlements, output managements, etc. You have handle payments where you can do the single combined AR and AP, payment deferrals, installment plans, etc. Then manage credits and collections. This is basically for credit collection. And you have the dispute management thing where you provide the customer care. So this is what I was talking about. Like if you see, this is where you have these two apps. You see, manage subscription orders and manage subscription contracts. So what happens is that inside an order, you can have multiple products. So if you see here, zoom it for you.
Hmm.
So if you see this, these are this is basically these are two Fiori apps which are seen over here. One is the
Hmm.
managed subscription orders and the second is this managed subscription contract. Okay. So
Yes.
if you see here inside this particular order, we have different products, right? You see, you have unlimited usage, you have tablet professional, you have service usage, and you have the activation fee. So all these things, all these products you're basically consuming. And if you once you send it, if you see, you get a subscription contract which gets created. So if you see for line item 10, you will have one contract. For line item 20, you'll have another contract. For 30, you'll have another contract, and 40, you'll have another contract. I'll discuss more on this when we go to the SOM part.
Okay. It's kind of
Order capture
interesting.
and distribution.
Just an observation. Like normally, if you see S4 or ECC or whatever, you'll first have a contract with all the line items.
Hmm,
It could be a value contract, it could be a quantity contract or whatever, right? Or it could be some sort of a contract. From that perspective, then you'll release orders against that contract, right? But here
correct.
it looks
Yeah.
like a little bit opposite actually. First you have an order with line items, and then you create a contract based on that line item.
Contract. Okay. So this is one thing. This is the subscription order management part. If you see, so you have order fulfillment. You can include physical goods, delivery of services, etc. You can have bulk order management like Sawyer and contract change processes, which we are talking about initially. If you see, you
Mhm.
can do mass changes for like all these contracts. You can do renewal, cancellation, extension, upgrades, upselling. Let's say you are doing an upsell. You have a contract and you want to add a product. You can do that upgrade or upsell, and you can also change a product. There is also this thing called you can change a business partner or change the contract account which gets linked to a business partner. So
Yeah.
that is also there, but that is something we don't use much.
Mm.
This mediation tool is something which I was talking about. It's basically
Mhm.
for collecting usage. You see,
Yeah.
if you collect multiple data streams or sources from multiple systems and you merge all this data together. So this is where the you can merge it. You can conditional forwarding based on meta information or content. Ensure
Mhm.
data quality is like you detect errors, you don't send duplicate data, you filter out erroneous data, and there is also you can send alerts also. Basically, let's say if your consumption is more than a particular threshold value, you can also always send real-time alerts to consumers or via the system.
Mm.
Data
Okay.
transformation and enrichment, that's you enrich data through combination with any sources. You can remove or reformat, add data in real time, and you can also aggregate it. So let's say if you're sending, you're getting five or you're getting 1,000 metering events, and you just want to send one particular metering event with the entire the value summed up to S4 or to CC.
Mm.
So you can do that also. And in data format standardization, you can standardize across platforms. You can translate protocols or formats to any format, and you can
Mm.
pre-process and create new unified data before forwarding to target systems. So what's this? Why is this? And why is this beneficial? It's basically you have a faster time to market. It's flexible, efficient, scalable, and smart.
Right. And it brings a lot of different formats, right? Supports
Formats,
like
correct.
JSON,
Multiple
XML,
formats,
and streaming
right?
formats, video formats, and maybe some other machine format that we like normally are not familiar with. Like some devices might give some other formats actually, right? So
True.
it's interesting. So this is using that HANA thing. That's how it is
No,
able to.
this is a different tool called
Okay.
conversion mediation. I'll come to that.
Okay.
So rating and charging is nothing but your rating tool, I'll go into that. I'll go into it deeper after some time. But just for
Mhm.
your understanding, there is a tool called convergent charging, and it's a
Mhm.
third-party tool. It's not like hosted within S4, but it can be
Mhm.
integrated with S4. It can be integrated with convergent mediation, which gives you this pricing and charging flexibility. So what you do is you give decision tree logic inside the system, right? So let's say you have a usage charge, you have a recurring charge, you have a one-time charge, and you can basically
Set
have
this up
your
for the
logic.
customer. Yeah.
Yeah, you can write your own logic inside it. Let's say if your consumption is greater than 100, less than 200,
Mm.
it's like you write your own algorithm kind of thing, and you can
Yeah.
generate or trigger the bits, which is the basically the amount to be invoiced from convergent charging system. So in this also, this it's basically needed for very high volume transactions. But S4, since this is Java based, it has really good processing capability. So it can process multiple transactions at a particular time.
And end user can do it, or you need a consultant?
For convergent charging? No. So for
Yeah,
this, we need a consultant because end user,
consultant.
since this is a third party tool, right? Since this is a
Mm.
third party tool, you actually write your logic, whatever you have inside the system, and
Mm.
I'll come to, so maybe after I explain CC to you, it'll be more clear. But yeah,
Okay.
from what I've seen, end users never log into CC system and do all this algorithm thing. It has to be done by the consultant, and the
Okay.
end user usually does not look into what the logic inside CC tool is. So you just get the values from the product, from the order or the contract which flows to CC. So
Mm.
for example, let's say your contract has certain parameters, okay,
Yeah.
duration, consumption, quantity, etc. Based on that, your CC will read that those parameter numeric values or values whatever is coming in, and then they will generate that particular charge amount which is to be charged to the customer. So
Mm.
that way that gets happened in the backend. So the user does not actually log into CC and see what is happening inside that.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is next is convergent invoicing, and this is where everything comes into as in you have multiple invoices or multiple bits, and this convergent invoicing, this which is hosted in S4, this will consolidate your multiple upstream systems for a single view of a customer's account. See, you can fully integrate billable item or bits inside one particular invoice over here. And see,
Mm.
individual item linkages are maintained through the document flow down to the GL account. Okay, you have
Mm.
high volume invoice generation. You can configure invoice level discounting, etc. Multi-currency, multi-language support. You can integrate seamlessly with accounts, receivables, and payments for interest calculation, adjustments, etc. And you can also handle both customer invoicing and production of payment settlements for partners in a single solution. You can also have like your customer invoice as well as your partner invoices in a single solution. That's what this is.
Okay.
And accounts receivable and payable management, this is basically FICA or AR, FICA,
Mm.
FIAR, which you have where you can have receivables and payables, inbound and outbound payment processing. You can have your automated payment allocation, customer scoring, financial care, dispute management, etc. So I'll just give you a brief on how BRIM deployment can be done, and then we'll move to the architecture basically. Yeah. So if you see, this is the complete end-to-end system or solution for BRIM, right? For any new product,
Mm.
if you have
Yeah.
convergent mediation, you have convergent charging, so if you see, these are not hosted within S4. These are third-party tools. So that's why
Mm.
it does not come inside this S4 box. Okay. So you
Mm.
can have convergent mediation, you have convergent charging. Then, from consumption, your convergent mediation, you have your usage data, which flows to convergent charging, which will basically trigger your usage amount or bits, which flows to CI. And SAP SOM is basically subscription order management, where you have all your products, contracts, master data, etc. set up, right? All these are
Yeah.
interlinkable. If you see, so CM can call CC, CC can integrate with CM. These are two-way integrations. Then from
Mm.
CI, your invoice flows to customer financial management, SAP financials, and also you can also integrate it with third-party financials. Okay.
Mm.
Now let's say you have an existing, so this was for complete new like end-to-end solution, right? You can
Yes.
also have an existing pricing. So let's say you are using an existing pricing engine and you want to integrate it with S4. So if you see, you can
Mm.
also integrate an existing charging system with existing rating and charging system with CI. You don't need to have all these things over here, right? You can have
Mm.
straight away go with existing, you just have a CC solution which can be integrated with SAP CI. Okay.
Mm.
now you have in the next option you have existing pricing charging, which is the CC system along with invoicing. So this also
Right.
can be integrated along with. So this CC integrates with CI, and then CI can go into this customer financial management integration system. Sorry,
One
go ahead.
question is CC essential or you can do without CC?
We can do without CC also. So there are a couple of things. So in case you need usage, right? So
Mm-hmm.
then CC is essential. But
Okay.
let's say there are a couple of things which you need to take care of, which you need to keep in mind. So let's say so what SAP has done is for your recurring and one time, you can do it straight away within S4. You don't need CC or CM for that, right? So
Mm.
recurring based is something you can do via there is a billing plan component inside SAP CI
Yeah.
which you can use, and that gets triggered on a recurring basis. You can do that. But
Right.
what I have seen is like in case you have quite a complex
Mm.
proration logic for your recurring charges. Let's say you're billed from
Yeah.
15th of a month to 14th of one month, then in the next month based on, let's say the customer wants their own billing schedule rather than,
Yeah.
let's say you're billed every first of a month or you're billed on your anniversary date of a month. Let's say if you start consuming your service on 15th, you're billed every
Yeah.
15th of a month. In that case, it's quite simple, right? And you can just bill the customer on the 15th of every month until the customer
Yes.
cancels. So in that case, you can use CI billing plan over here. But
Mm.
let's say if your customer has a completely different billing schedule. Let's say from, let's say the first of a month, the customer only wants to consume 10% of his entire transaction amount. On the after 3 months, he wants to do like another 15%. So here, since this is quite complex, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you'll need certain RICEPs or enhancements to do it within CI. But what CC can do is, since in CC we write our own logic, right?
Yeah.
We write our own algorithm, so it can be anything. You can actually, as a per the decision, it's like any other programmable logic language where you can actually program it so that you can write your own logic in such a way it can meet the customer's requirement. So in this case, you see that CC is required. But
Yes.
if it's straightforward, then CI billing plan is. It can be done via CC also, but then
Mm-hmm.
what I've seen is that customers are more tending to go towards CI rather than CC for recurring, because SAP is actually doing a lot of things in the billing plan space rather than
Okay.
for using recurring, which is like subscription billed on after a particular duration. You can use CI rather than CC because SAP is also doing a lot of upgrades on this billing plan solution.
Okay. Okay. So, but if you really want the maximum flexibility with a lot of complicated logic, then you probably need CC, right?
CC,
So,
yes, correct.
yeah.
And if you need usage, basically, if there is usage, you'll
Mm-hmm.
have to use CC.
Okay.
So this is a high level architecture as to, or a component view of BRIM.
Mhm.
This is visible, right? Your screen, is it easy?
Yes, I think maybe is there something at the bottom of the screen? Oh yeah, I think I can see it now.
So if you
Yeah.
see here, you have convergent mediation and you have S4 HANA and CC. So if you see the things in yellow, those are part
Mm-hmm.
of the current BRIM space. And if you see, there is subscription billing and entitlement management, which we spoke about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is not a part of S4 currently, but it can be integrated. This is where the public cloud version comes into play. But
Yeah.
we'll focus on convergent mediation, convergent charging, and your S4 HANA for now. So
Yeah.
here, if you see, you have convergent mediation system, which will send your usage data. You have CC. CC integrates. So if you see here inside S4, you have the master data component. So this is SOM basically. Inside subscription order management, you can also configure your master data. So where you
Mm-hmm.
do your business partner, your product, prices, contract accounts, etc. This flows to CC. Whenever a contract is created and a contract gets replicated to CC, this master data also flows. But let's say
Mm-hmm.
you're just creating standalone master data, right? Let's say you're only creating a BP inside S4, right? And if
Mm-hmm.
S4 is integrated to CC, as soon as you create a, let's say, a product, that does not get replicated. It gets replicated once a contract gets replicated or an order gets replicated from SOM to CC. CC will replicate the provider contract. If you see here, this has two components over here. You have the
Mm-hmm.
subscription order management, you have the service, and you have the sales. Okay, this
Yeah.
quote order contract confirmation, it can be integrated with SD. So this is, if you see here, the FIAR component, the accounts receivable, SD billing, and the
Mm-hmm.
FICA component comes into play along with convergent invoicing. Okay, this is where your billable item management and billing and invoicing takes place along with contract receivables. So all
Mm-hmm.
this particular thing, it happens inside BRIM. So if you see here, this is your subscription order management, where you have your product catalog, replication of you have your pricing, etc. You have renewals, upgrades, order capture, and distribution. Now, once you create all this, that gets flown to CC. And in CC,
Mm-hmm.
if you see, you have different events. You have event one, which could be a recurring. Event two might be your one time. Event three might be your usage. All these gets integrated with CA as a bit. So CC will generate that bit, tens of
Mm-hmm.
millions of rated events per day, right? And you can also do it with legacy billing systems. You don't just need a CC. You can also do it with legacy rating engines and legacy billing systems. You can
Mm-hmm.
integrate it with CI. Now, if you see all these bits, they are getting aggregated, and one particular invoice is getting created. If you see, there are not multiple invoices. Okay, billing, billable items, storage and processing. This is happens inside CI. Invoice creation. You can do also multi-channel bill presentment. Let's say you have one for email, one for self-service, etc. And this invoice gets posted to contract accounts receivable and payable. So posted invoices go there and open invoices come back. And then inside customer financial management, you have your receivables, payment processing, credit management, partner settlement, etc. So if you see, Bosch was one product, Microsoft was one where they monetize their digital commerce. Telus is basically a telecom nerd. They wanted pricing agility, and AT&T also revenue management renovation. So this is BRIM. So if you see here, it's designed to streamline high volume revenue management processes. So you can have a collection of different functionalities such as pricing, rating, etc., which we've already discussed. Why BRIM? Transforming traditional paper product business models. There are new ways of monetization. New product service offerings are targeting different customer groups and provides a steady revenue stream.
Mm-hmm.
BRIM deployment options, as I showed you, it has the full BRIM suite. You can use CI, CC, FICA, CI and FICA, and convergent charging. So you have these four modules, or inside the full BRIM suite, we have the entire modules, right? CC,
Mm-hmm.
CI, CM, and CI, FICA, and SOM
Yeah.
as needed. CM, if you see the BRIM components over here, you have subscription order management, convergent charging, convergent invoicing, and convergent mediation. So CC and CM are basically you can do without this based on whether you need it or not. So let's say you don't
Mm-hmm.
have usage, you don't need to send network events or your consumption data to S4. You basically won't need CM, right? This is, since it is a third party tool, you won't just have it in your system because integration S4 with a third party tool, since even though in this case it is standard, but then if you
Mm-hmm.
don't need it, you probably will do without it. Similarly for CC also,
Yeah.
since it's a third party tool, and if you don't have a case or a use case for using CC, then you won't integrate it. But what I've seen is, in the current scenario, everything, most of the recurring is being done via billing plan.
Okay. Even I see. Unless it's complicated, it can be done using the billing plan itself. Yeah. But there will be additional cost, right? If you use CC in terms of licensing, maintenance, etc.
No, so
Because it's
it comes as a part of the BRIM suite. So you can
okay.
you can use CC also. But I don't think there's additional license needed for that, because it comes as a part of BRIM. But for
Okay.
mediation, since
Mm-hmm.
it is owned by another firm called Digital Route and it partners with SAP. So CC was initially owned by Hydeal, which is a company
Mm-hmm.
in France. Since I think it was as SAP acquired CC in 2007, and since then it is SAP Convergent Charging. But for convergent mediation, it is still Digital Route, which owns CM. It has not SAP hasn't acquired it. It just partners with Digital Route as and when you need CM to be integrated with S4.
Okay. But this mediation seems to be important for certain type of industries where you need to collect
Right.
records.
Usage.
Yeah.
Correct. Absolutely. That's necessary.
Right.
But let's say you have your even different other network streams, right? Or your
Mm-hmm.
network events, or your network engine, they can also be integrated with S4. But then there'll be an
Mm.
additional cost in terms of how you do that integration. There'll be like additional cost of like that integration, whether it's possible or not, whether how many enhancements, how many RICEFs are needed. But since CM is standard integration with S4, CM can
Mm-hmm.
integrate with that particular. So what CM does is CM integrates with that network engine, gets the data, enriches it, puts it in a readable format, and then it sends it to S4 for consumption. And so just give you an overview on SOM.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So subscription order management, it's this highlighted area. And what are the key capabilities? So you have master data creation and replication. So SOM replicates the product, which is your service, to CC and CI, and a business
Mm-hmm.
partner replication from SOM to CI. You can also do the So if you see in this case, the business partner replication does not happen from SOM to CC, but in case of that will only happen when your contract flows from CC to from SOM to CC. But in
Mm.
case of it is S4, SOM and CI both are in S4, you can do the replication from SOM to CI. And
Okay.
there is an order distribution framework. So this basically is something. These are different steps or different what should I say steps which basically replicate your contract from SOM to CC to CI. Okay, so let's say in this case there is one step which replicates your product from SAP order management to CC. There is one
Mm.
particular step which activates your contract inside CC. Then there is one particular step which actually distributes your contract from CC to CI. So all this, and there is another one contract step and another ODI step which actually activates your contract inside SAP CI. So that
Mm.
is out of the box order distribution framework. So there is a framework and you can also modify this framework. So let's say in case CC is not needed, so you can just make
Mm.
that particular step of replication to CC, activation of provider contract in CC as inactive. So what will happen is that when your contract flows from CC to from SOM to CI, those steps which are there for CI will not get activated. So it will, since it's an inactive state, it will straight away go from SOM to CI. It won't go to CC. You can
Oh,
play around with that. Yeah. So there are different steps. We'll come to that.
okay.
Product modeling is something. Let's say you have different. You want to model your product, right? As in, you can have
Mm.
different characteristics and parameters. Let's say if I'm telecom industry, I want to have like, or let's say if I'm Amazon, right? I want to give a SaaS
Mm.
product to a particular consumer. So I have different tiers. Let's say based on that, my pricing comes into picture. So let's say I have tier one, tier two, and it can go into multiple cases, right? Then again,
Mm.
I might have a customer type. Let's say if I'm a premium customer, if I'm a regular customer, I'm a diamond
Mm.
customer, etc. So you can model your product in such a way that when that product is used in an order, you can just drop
Mm.
down and you can select those particular characteristics. So you don't have to enter or anything. You can model your product in such a way that it's easier for the end user to choose and set different characteristics or parameters and it can happen during at runtime also. It
Mm.
just happens on the go. You don't need to like go in a different screen or do something. You can model your product inside that. Cross catalog mapping, I'll come to that. It's quite technical, but the terminology is technical. But what happens is you can link your product inside SOM to a charge plan inside CC. I'll show you that in the next
Mm.
session, which is important in case you have CC into play. And out of
Okay.
the box contract change processes. Okay, you have upsell, downsell, extension, cancellation, etc. Then
Mm.
from CC perspective, what you can do is so the key capabilities for CC is this is basically optimized for high transaction volume, and it calculates your prices and charges for thousands of transactions per second. So it has a really good transaction capability, and since it's Java based, it can actually do a lot of calculation within a second. So you have rating
Mm.
for one time, recurring, and usage based charges. It supports prepaid, postpaid, and hybrid charging. So let's say if you have multiple pricing modules, you have flat rate, tiered, and effectively date based. So if you see here, that is what I was mentioning. Like it can, I mentioned earlier that it can take into account and do the pricing when it's custom, when it's quite complex. So you have
Mm.
flat rates, if you have tiered, if you have effective, let's say on a particular date I want to consume this, on another date I want to consume this. So based on that particular schedule, you can actually write your logic inside CC, and then
Mm.
that can be used to generate that particular amount as an output. So
Mm.
whenever there's says custom level or a lot of proration involved, you can use CC. Counters again, it's something which is internal to CC. I'll come back to it. Web services is how CC integrates with SOM and CI. So I'll show you
Mm.
that also, how that's done. Next, we move to CI. So what are the key capabilities of CI? So first of
Mm.
all is billing. So you have aggregation and grouping of billable data. So you have as part of invoicing, you can have invoice preview, consolidated invoicing using billing data from multiple sources, discounting, etc. Threshold
Mm.
definition for auto posting. Usage, you can have raw usage data storage. So CI can actually store that consumption data which is flowing from CM to C. CM can either send it to CM and CM can also send that data to CC also. Okay, but what happens is if CM sends the data data to CC, since CC does not have a particular database hosted within S4, you won't see
Mm-hmm.
that record within CC. Okay, so what will
Mm-hmm.
happen is CC will straight away generate that output. Let's say CM sends in a particular data record or consumption of 10. Let's say I am let's say from a telecom perspective, I just say 10 KB of data was used. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
if that data flows from CM to CC, so what CC does is CC will calculate it internally using that logic, and it will generate that amount, right? Let's say 10 KB of data. For this, my
Mm-hmm.
amount is zero point 0.1, so I'll generate $0.1, or let's say $1. But what happens is, but there's no record of that 10 kilobyte consumption data which came in. What you get into S4 is straight away that $1 of output, or the amount, the bit which gets created. But
Right.
inside CI, if CM sends that data to CI, what happens is CI will store that usage data within itself. So in
Yeah.
case you want to reconcile, let's say you want to reconcile that $1 to this particular 10 KB of usage data, you can always do
Mm-hmm.
that. So there's a
Okay.
reconciliation. CI will hold this consumption data record also, and CI will also
Yeah.
hold the output also. So if you see here, that's what this data usage data storage is there. And you have
Makes
month
sense.
to date usage visibility and
Yeah.
duplicate usage data identification. CI
Mm-hmm.
has you can also reverse and read it. So let's say in case you have, let's say you generated a bit or an amount, and then or you and also you invoice the customer, but then you saw that after a month that this particular price was incorrect. So what you can do is you can cancel the invoice, reverse your billing doc, and you can re-rate that bit after making that change inside the price. So what CI does
Mm-hmm.
is CI will automatically generate the bit with the new amount. Okay, and that is what
Mm-hmm. Okay.
reversal and re-rating is. Integration is you can integrate with external tax engines and external payment gateways and revenue
Mm-hmm.
share and partner settlement. Next is FICA. So this is comes into play after convergent invoicing, and you can have like revenue realization from your billing to your general ledger. Also, fast, automated, and accurate payment handling
Yeah.
differentiates collections based on customer credit risk profile. Just a comparison between CI and FICA. So if you see the application component, it's a sub-ledger for CI FICA, which is contract accounts receivable and payable, is a sub-ledger application. It
Mm-hmm.
offers enhanced functionalities. So for example, for a general ledger information, and FICA provides the functionality which enables processes for industries with. So you have large volume of documents to process and large volume of business partners. And what is CI? CI is basically a sub-component of FICA, which creates the invoices for customers that calculate the overview of all the charges provided across different services. CI is the model which provides functionality which enables custom and consumption and subscription-based billing. So
Mm-hmm.
why is FICA preferred over FIAR? In the FIAR module, what happens is that a customer can only be linked to one receivable account, one reconciliation account. But in FICA, you see that it has the provides the flexibility to link multiple receivable accounts with one customer based on whatever transaction is posted.
So at a line level.
Yeah, at the line level. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting because normally when you have an invoice coming out of the regular S4 HANA, right, the whole invoice gets posted to one recon account, but you don't have flexibility to, like, if there are multiple line items in that invoice,
Hmm.
you cannot say that this line goes to this recon account and that line goes to a different one. You cannot do that. Yeah, because this also makes sense because it coming could be each line could be coming from a different system as well,
Different source. Correct.
different source as
Absolutely.
well. Also could be either related to product or service or some sort of a hybrid thing also. And you may want some flexibility in terms of where it goes. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Next is CM. So CM's since CM is a third-party tool, I won't go into these particular lot of technicalities. But if you see here, this is where mediation comes into play. Part five. If you see here, it has lots of it's integrated with BRIM. So you have your
Mm-hmm.
network events, devices, logs, and that can integrate with CM or mid mediation. What are the different capabilities? So you have
Mm-hmm.
data infrastructure, shortened time to market. You can have enrichment, which is what we discussed earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You can have quick adaptation, new business requirements, ensures records are not lost, duplicated, or corrupted, reduces
Yeah.
revenue leakage, and enrichment, alarm, and event management, which basically sends your alerts to your consumer or your customer based on the threshold value in case you have any threshold.
Okay.
Okay, so that was it for today.